Hey everybody, it's your friend and your guy and your favorite YouTuber who's standing up at a standing desk now. What? Gardiner, the Linux gamer. We're trying out a different setup here. I just got this stand-up desk. My roommate got it for me, actually. I'm really happy about that. So if the audio quality is different or worse, I apologize for that. I'm aware of it and I'm trying to improve it. So just bear with me while I'm trying to figure this out. I think the audio quality should be okay though, because the microphone's not that far from my face. You can see it like right there. But we're gonna try a different thing because I'm sick of sitting. I sit all the time now, so I want to stand. And this is a lot like what I was doing before I had the desk set up in my old apartment. So if you like this setup, if you like this more standing kind of thing, let me know. Let me know in the comments. I'd love to know what you guys have to say. So I don't know if you guys saw this, but Nextcloud actually just announced Nextcloud Hub. I am a huge fan of Nextcloud. So in my top 5 things of things that I'm super passionate about, it's Linux, Star Trek, web technologies, Nextcloud, and then video games in that order. I am a huge fan of Nextcloud. I think it's one of the coolest things. And so I was really excited to see what version 18, what they are branding Nextcloud Hub, is going to bring to the project. So let's talk about what they're adding, because oh my gosh, I'm pretty stoked. So the file browser now has an improved sidebar. It lets you check out files and lock them so that you don't end up with conflicts after you're done editing with something and try to load it back onto the server, which is something that has happened a couple times. You can now change file ownership right from the sidebar. And a new concept called workspaces allows you to collaborate with all your files in one place for each different project that you're working on, which is something that I'm pretty stoked about. There's a new concept called flows, which allow you to create workflows around certain projects. One of the things that they mention is that you can actually create a workflow that will convert a document into a PDF. You can also automatically send chat messages to people in a chat group associated with the workflow. That's pretty cool. I like that. There's a brand new image gallery that's coming with this version. I hope that they sped up the image previewing. Which we'll talk about in a minute. So Nextcloud Talk now has a completely rewritten user interface, which is pretty exciting to me. I have some issues with the Nextcloud Talk interface, so hopefully they solve some of the issues that I've had with it. But it now supports indicators that show when a message has actually been received by recipients. It has circle support and also workflow support now. You can now book appointments from Talk into your calendar, which is pretty cool. It reached version 2.0 recently. There's also a busy view for meetings. I'm not sure what that means. The mail client is now at version 1.0, which was a pretty significant leap because I'm pretty sure the mail client was at version 0.2. So now that they're at 1.0, it features a couple new things. The mail client can now read your emails and determine if there's like an appointment that needs to be scheduled into your calendar, and you can go ahead and do that, kind of how it works in Gmail. I think the thing that gets me most excited though is you can now have OnlyOffice installed as a Nextcloud app. The Community Edition server, it's now a Nextcloud app. So you don't have to have a Docker instance of OnlyOffice running as a Docker image. You don't have to have it running as a separate daemon. It will now run as a Nextcloud app. I am beyond stoked for this because Nextcloud has needed collaborative document editing. They tried to do it with the Markdown editor. It's okay, but it still has a lot of issues. The fact that you can now do complete document editing inside Nextcloud with the OnlyOffice app, boy oh boy, does that get me freaking stoked, my dudes. Holy cow, that makes me so happy. I actually had OnlyOffice set up as a Docker instance on my server, but it is a fickle beast, I will tell you. Getting it set up was very difficult. I was actually going to make a video about how to get it set up, but then I couldn't replicate how I actually got it set up in the first place, and so I decided not to make the video because it was just too intense. But here's the thing. The inclusion of the OnlyOffice document server is a game changer for the free and open source web and the private web, because the fact is, if you install Nextcloud right now, the document server is included by default. That's amazing, because that means that you can do collaborative text document editing, you can do PowerPoint presentation editing, you can do Excel spreadsheet editing, all within your browser, collaboratively, just like you would do in Office 365 or Google Drive. And you can do it in an open source application. That is incredible to me. It's no secret that I love Nextcloud, and it is an open and diverse ecosystem. There are tons of apps available. That means that almost anything that you could want to do with a proprietary suite like this is available in Nextcloud. You can do file sharing, you can do collaborative document editing, you can do any of the things that you would do with Dropbox or Google Drive or Office 365. But you can do it with an open source program or an open source suite of programs. And that's really cool. However, as someone who geeks out about user interface design, as someone who loves this project, I feel like Nextcloud could withstand a bit of a critical eye. So I wanted to talk about some of the things that I would like to see in upcoming releases, some of the things I'd like to see change, some of the things I'd like to see fixed with Nextcloud. First up, the core functionality. The fact is, Nextcloud is meant to work sort of like Dropbox. You have your files, you drop them in there, you can share them with people. That's very important. Yet when you're dealing with a directory with, let's say, 100 files or 200 or 300 files in it, then it becomes an exercise in tedium when you're trying to find anything inside that file. Now, if you know the file name, if you know metadata, you can search for it, but that's not ideal if you don't remember what those things are. And so the problem is you're only ever shown 20 items in the directory at a time. That can be quite tedious. It can be quite annoying. You scroll down to the end of the list, and let's say you have like 45 items that start with the letter A. If you want to get to M, you're scrolling down 20 times N. I mean, it's crazy because the files will only load after you scroll down to the end of the directory, so you only see 20 at a time. This is such an obnoxious feature. This is such an obnoxious issue that really the only way I tend to manage my files through Nextcloud is actually through WebDAV in my file manager. Because WebDAV will actually show you how many files you actually have. But otherwise, you're just left scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. It's really annoying. It's actually really slow as well. Getting files to actually load after you hit the bottom of the thing, it's not seamless, and there's no prediction on whether you're going to continue scrolling and if it should lazy load earlier than hitting the bottom of the frame. And it's also slow to load thumbnail previews of images. Let's talk about that. So in the Nextcloud file manager, it's slow to load thumbnail previews. Very slow. To the point where it's almost unusable. And the same goes for the Photos app. The Photos app doesn't have, it seems, any caching of thumbnails going on, which is just bananas to me. If you load up the Photos app, it can take up to a minute to actually show you all of the preview thumbnails for your images, which is unusably slow in my opinion. That's why I generally don't use the Photos thing. I generally use, like I said, the WebDAV. WebDAV is still pretty slow to load thumbnails. A killer feature of Google Photos is its image recognition technology. I know a lot of people are going to hate me for saying this, but if Nextcloud wants to actually compete with the likes of Google and Google Drive, they have to implement something like this. I know that there is a Nextcloud app for detecting faces, but I've had tremendous problems trying to get that to actually work. So the idea of having a first-party image recognition app that comes from Nextcloud that is integrated with the other parts of the Nextcloud, I think that would make so much sense to have, to be able to search your Nextcloud photos for me, or my dog, or something like that would be incredibly useful. And of course, this would be implemented as an app. Of course, all of the image recognition would be done locally on your machine, not uploaded to the cloud. That is your cloud, your Nextcloud server. So if you don't want it, you could turn it off. You could disable it as the app that it is. It wouldn't be integrated into the actual Photos app. It wouldn't be integrated into the own thing. It would stand alone as its own application that would run in the background and tag files based on whatever you tell it to do. I honestly think that that's a super important thing to include in a suite like this where they're trying to compete with Google. Let's talk about the calendar. You keep doing you, calendar. You're actually pretty great. And the same goes for contacts. I think the contacts in the calendar app are spot on and provide all the functionality and the user interface requirements that are necessary. I think it's great. So you guys are great. Just keep doing your own thing. So let's talk about the Passwords app. The Passwords app is freaking phenomenal. All the functionality is there, but the UI could withstand an overhaul that's focused on presentation. If you're in the categories view, I think it's called the categories view, and you search for something, it will only search for whatever you did in that directory that you're in. Not ideal. Also, the Nextcloud Passwords extension for your browser doesn't generate passwords for you. Like, what? That seems like a crucial feature. And the Android app also could stand to automatically suggest your passwords for you inside apps. That's kind of a big deal. Firefox Lockwise does that. Other password managers can do that. Why not the Nextcloud Passwords app? Honestly, the most appealing thing about having a Nextcloud instance before I learned much about it was having a self-hosted webmail. I was super stoked to get the webmail app set up on my Nextcloud instance, and then it just didn't work, which I found to be one of the most disappointing things about Nextcloud. And to this day, I still have issues with the Nextcloud mail client. So I've checked my settings, and I had it working at one point, but a release back in something like September or October ended up causing it to stop working. It's throwing a 500 error. This is a known problem. I think it's issue 2066 on their GitHub page. I'll have a link in the description. Hopefully I remember to put it there. I can check my email, but I can't send messages, which is kind of a crucial component of an email app, don't you think? Another thing that I feel is incredibly important that the Nextcloud Mail app just lacks completely is the ability to encrypt your messages. That's super duper important. I don't know why it's not in there. I know that there is an extension you can get for your web browser that will allow you to encrypt your messages, but that seems like a dumb workaround hack that really needs to be addressed. Being able to encrypt your messages through Nextcloud is so important. I don't know why it doesn't exist there. Nextcloud Talk. I want Nextcloud Talk to be my primary method of instant messaging, of chat rooms. I love the idea of self-hosting my own chat rooms. Voice and video work fine in most instances. Sometimes people are behind weird NAT setups and it will fail to connect. But for the most part, those things just work. They're reliant on WebRTC. But again, there's something just off about Nextcloud Talk. At least in the web client, when you type in a message and hit the return key, it disables the field that you're typing in, waits for the server to respond that says the message has been sent, and then it re-enables your text field and places your message in the conversation. That is totally not okay, in my opinion. It feels bad to have your input field disabled after you hit return. It feels bad. What I would like to see is it function more like this. You take the value of the input field, you immediately place it in the conversation and have it be in some way represented that it hasn't fully sent yet, and leave the input field open for more editing. Once you have it in the conversation and it has been sent, then you can make it, it's been sent either with a checkbox next to it or making it fully opaque, something like that. If it doesn't send, you write next to it, hey, this failed to send, and then you can click on it, hit edit, and then send it again, or whatever you want to do. It does not make sense, and it does not feel good the way that it works right now. And it's because it's slow, it doesn't feel like it's being responsive. It's just got to be changed. It really does need to be changed. Now, I'm not saying any of this out of hate. If you've seen any of my previous Nextcloud videos, you'll know that I love Nextcloud. I believe that it is a crucial component of a more secure, private, and open source web. And you can quote me on that. But it's not without its issues. it's not without its pain points. And I feel like it's really important to hold those things up, look at them, and figure out what we can do better. My takeaway from this is that Nextcloud just feels a little bit slow. If it's initial page load when you first load up the app, if it's loading settings menus or anything like that, I'm talking even over my local network, it just feels a little bit slow. Maybe it's my configuration, but I have a 6-core CPU, over 20 gigabytes of RAM in my server. PHP has 4 gigabytes available to it, and yet it's still pretty dang slow. I honestly can't imagine running Nextcloud on a Raspberry Pi. Like, I don't know how that's even possible. Additionally, there's just a lack of polish across the entire system. If it's weird focus issues with the mouse, or if it's inconsistent UI problems, hello app settings, holy moly. Certain UI feedback that doesn't feel right at all, or inconsistent back button behavior. I mean, there's just a general lack of polish. Or third-party Nextcloud apps that violate core design philosophies. An egregious example is loading its own icon set that clash with the native icon set of Nextcloud. That is just unforgivable, in my opinion. I just feel like there's a lot of things that need polishing when it comes to Nextcloud. I would love to see the next release, or maybe the one after that, solely focusing on polish and making things feel good and look good and work. Because right now, there are these little things that just kind of get on my nerves about Nextcloud, and I figured I'd let you guys know about that. But I think that's gonna be it for me ranting about Nextcloud. I would love to know what you guys think. What features are you excited for in Nextcloud Hub? What features would you like to see in an upcoming release? Do you have problems? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to know what you guys think about this. But that's gonna do it for this video. If you believe in the work that I do, you can support this show with a monthly contribution over on Patreon. You can pick up a t-shirt, there's a link in the description. But no matter what you do, whether you hit that like button or share this video with your friends, don't forget to subscribe to see more from me, the Linux Gamer. And as always, thanks for watching.